Lunastra has done it. She done did it, she changed the game and she changed it dramatically for us bow users. Now what did she do? She enabled us to create the best bow builds for all elements as of now, and it might very well be the best builds for a long time to come moving onwards. Ignore everything I've said earlier in the other videos, this is what you're looking for. Why, do you ask? Because of this. Extended stamina bar. As well as a bunch of other great stats as well, but extended stamina bar! However, roll intro. Welcome to Insane Builds, the series of which I talk about builds that I personally find insane due to it being incredible in one way or another. If you're a bow enthusiast, you might have seen that some people do incredible speedruns with bows using exactly these types of builds. And depending on the monster's weakness, you build a set to suit your needs. I'm Tio, and in this one I'm gonna talk about a couple of elemental bow builds that will change the game for speedrunners and casual hunts alike. This time we're gonna cover all elements so you can fight every monster with ease using one of these builds that I'm about to show you. And if you're looking for a particular build, or more specifically element, I will make timestamps in the description for every different element you might be interested in. And as for the gear you need to make these sets, it's very high end and might contain some of the things that you don't have. Some of these things are materials from Lunastra, and for two of these builds, Azure, Starlord, Rathalos, Kultaroth, Arch-tempered Kirin, as well as a bunch of jewels, which is quite rare. In either case, let's get into it. Starting out chill with the element of ice or frost. Now, as you can see, there's clearly a lot crammed into this build, but we'll ignore these two for now, as we're too selfish to buff others anyways, and we're much more than a tool specialist. Anywho, we have the Rathalos Mastery 2, which of course increases the crit damage of elemental hits, which we will be doing a lot of with this build. And then we have the Lunastra Favor 2, which increases the stamina bar by like 50 points or something. It's tremendous for a weapon that practically uses stamina to do everything. As for the element itself, we have Ice Attack level 4, as that's the max for this bow, and it caps out at 510. Level 3 weakness exploit for the added critical chance on weak parts, which we will be hitting all the time. Attack boost level 2 for a little bit more added damage. Wide range and tool specialist level 2, but again, not really that important. They do help of course, but if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, I'd be celebrating Christmas right now. Which is kinda hard because it's kinda in the middle of the frickin' summer. Moving on to normal shots level 1 for the extra damage on normal shots. Spread/power shot level 1 for the extra damage on spread and power shots. Critical boost level 1 increasing the damage of critical hits. Level 1 in constitution, which decreases the stamina drain while doing certain activities. I'd prefer to have more, but with a huge stamina bar and a dash juice down, you're good to go for ages. And then we have the bow charge plus for that extra charge on the bow, as well as the mind's eye skill to make those power coatings really useful at close range. Now for the gear itself, in case you didn't catch that, we start off with a weapon which of course is the Legiana Snow Fletcher, and as for the augment, I just go for an affinity augment, attack or health regen augment depending on your preference, as the rest doesn't really do that much for us. The helm is the Wrath Soul Helm B with crit boost level 1, and into it we have an attack and a frost attack jewel. Chests, the Rathalos Mail B with weakness exploit level 2 and an attack jewel. Gloves comes out as the Empress Vambraces B, which of course has wide range level 2 and a beautiful couple of gem slots. Here we slot either the normal shot or the spread shot jewel depending on which one you want or are missing, as well as a tenderizer jewel for that last point of weakness exploit. Legs are the Empress Coil B with tool specialist level 2, and into it we slot the physique/constitution jewel and a mighty bow jewel. And depending on the jewel you prefer or the gem you're missing, you go for the Lavasiath Greaves B or the Diablos Nero B to get either spread shot or normal shot. And in these we put a Mind's Eye jewel. And then we have the Frost Charm 3 for the last points of ice attack. And that's pretty much it for the ice set, and I'm quite glad we got a new decent build for this one, as I feel like we haven't really changed up the ice version of a bow build in forever. It just didn't really get any stronger with whatever we had going for us. But moving on to the next element, and for the next two sets, it's pretty much exactly the same. The only thing we switched out is really just the bow, the charm, elemental attack jewels, and the augment. Anywho, we're gonna spice it up with the element of fire. So even though everything but the aforementioned is the same, we have a new weapon. The weapon for this set is the Anya Arc 3. Anya Arch 3? Either way, which at this moment is the best firebow on the market, but it's a weapon that you really want at least a couple of affinity augments into to get away from the negative 20% crit chance. And I went all in with this one as it removes it entirely and is quite useful, but you could also go for 2 affinity augments and a jewel slot augment, as with this, if you remove 1 fire attack jewel and add a couple of attack jewels, you'll be up at +4 attack, which also increases crit chance by 5%, giving you the same stats, a little less fire damage, and a little more raw damage. But this is your choice, of course. I'd go with the highest amount of fire damage that I could get on this weapon because it's kind of what the build is built around. Again, the rest of the armor completely the same as the last set, but the charm is the Blaze Charm 3, which of course increases the fire attack by 3. And for those who missed it, insert a fire attack jewel where it was an ice attack jewel in the last set. And moving on to the ancient weaponry, it's time to show the dragon element. And depending entirely on your preference of what's best for you specifically, I'll provide 3 different sets and weapons for this one. First off with a Val Hasak bow, the Hasak Velos 2. This set again is practically the same as the 2 previous ones, but this time we don't have 4 in the elemental attack. This time we go for 3, as this is where the bow maxes out. Otherwise it's completely the same, except since we only have 3 in our elemental attack, we have 1 level 1 jewel slot left, and with this one you're free to do whatever you want. Attack jewel, critical eye jewel, grandma jewel, anything you want. I myself went with the critical eye jewel. And then of course we changed out the charm, which now is the Wormsbane Charm 3, increasing the dragon attack by 3. As for the bow, to max out the damage in terms of highest hit potential, I'd augment this one with 2 jewel slots to get an additional piece of critical boost in here, if I had the augment for it. This would now leave you at level 3 in critical boost, which is just insane by itself. Or you know, a jewel slot to then remove the 1 critical eye and add 2 attack pieces to get +4 attack for that extra damage and crit chance. It's all choices. There's so many choices. Just fucking do it all. Next up's another dragon bow for those of you who would prefer using this over the last one. And in very long fights where you're far beyond done with all of your power coating and any of what you could craft, providing you carried mats with you, this one will outshine the last in terms of damage output. And the bow is, believe it or not, the Dragon Bow 3. This one does not have power coating, however, but it's got a decent bunch of attack stat that makes up for quite a bit of that. Other than the attack stat, everything else is completely the same, except that this time we don't use a charm to increase our elemental attack stat. We instead do that by adding gems to the gear. And now we already have 2 slots in the bow where we put a couple of dragon attack jewels, or 3 if you have a slot augment as me. And don't worry, if you don't have that, you'll still get your level 4 dragon attack as well as +4 attack. You'll just have to sacrifice 1 attack in favor of 1 dragon attack. The bow itself goes all the way up to 550 dragon damage maxed out, but I don't feel like we need that, so I just went with 540, and I just went with another attack jewel instead. The other thing changed out with this one is the charm, which now is the Attack Charm 3. This set does exactly the same as the last one, but here you don't have to worry about power coatings. And it provides nearly the same numbers as the last bow, at least with the gear I have and no extra augments on the last bow. And now comes the one that probably does the most damage as long as you can stay in the positive side of critting. The Villainous Brace, also known as the Deljo bow, glove, paw, claw, the Devil Joe ranged weapon, which happens to be the bow. Okay, so has a lot of negative crit chance, as you can see, and it's pretty hard to remove unless you do magic, which of course is what augments are. With 2 affinity augments you can bring it down to -5% affinity, which of course makes all your weak spot hits have a 45% chance to crit, and with this bow I actually think it's worth it, so I'll definitely do that when I get around to changing my augment from attack to affinity. However, this weapon is maxed out at only 270 dragon attack, even though it doesn't show with orange numbers as all the other weapons do. So we just need 2 dragon attack jewels for it, which means that the charm will be an Attack Charm 3 to increase that sexy, high, raw damage even higher. This one did like 5 damage more than the Val Hasak bow and 7 more than the Dragon Bone bow on the highest hits when it was critting. And mind you, this is per arrow, which is 6, which hits often. So needless to say, it's a lot. And to get the largest amounts of crits, I would highly recommend going for an affinity booster with this weapon. As you know, more crits and all that. Now, for the 2 next elements, you need the monsters Azure, Starlord, Rathalos, Kultaroth, Arch-Tempered Kirin, as well as the Lunastra pieces you had with the last 5 sets. And since the Rathalos was a rare event for Asian regions only, they're not really that easy or fun to get a hold of. But you can definitely do it even if you don't have the access to the quest. You can also do this at any time compared to the other 2 monsters, which you do have to wait for them to release the event for. And I'll link a video in the description to how you potentially can get the boots which are vital to the next 2 builds. And if you can't get a hold of them, you can always try to mix it up with something else, or check out my other 2 videos as they cover these elements without any of this new stuff. And that also means no Lunastra armor, unfortunately. And again, this guy will tell us to
be water, my friend.
And that's exactly what we're gonna do. And since Arch-Tempered Kirin came around and gave us this sexy and not at all too small vest for the free element we couldn't get anywhere but the freaking boots the last Kirin offered, we're now able to make some really decent sets with all of the above plus some Kultaroth equipment. And to change the game of both water and thunder elemental bow builds drastically. So, the stats. Is same as before. We have the Rathalos Mastery for elemental crits and Lunastra Favor for the extra stamina. We move on to +4 water attack, +3 free element, 3 in weakness exploit, critical boost level 2, wide range and tool specialist level 2, normal shots, spread/power shots, constitution level 1 and a bow charge plus. And that's it for the stats. Now, the bow. Kultaroth, my man. Lady, show us that bling. And the bling, of course, will be the Taroth Arrow Water, which by itself doesn't have any elemental activated, and that's why we unlocked it with free element level 3, and maxed out the elemental attack to an astonishing 510 water attack. And it also has a 3 slot for the gem, and into it we have the Spread Shot Jewel, the heads, the Wrath Soul Helm B with level 1 crit boost, and a couple of water attack jewels. The chest is the Kirin Jacket Y, or Gamma for all of you nerds out there, which has free element level 2, and into it we have slotted another couple of water attack jewels. Gloves are the same as before, Empress Vambraces B with wide range 2 and a normal shot, as well as a weakness exploit jewel. And again, same as before, the legs are Empress Coil B with a Physique Jewel 2 and a Mighty Bow Jewel. And finally, a build that we can use these freaking boots for! I swear to you! I've been trying hundreds of builds where these actually made sense, but nothing was to show for it. So here, I finally fucking present to you the Azure Starlord Guards A, also known as Azure Starlord Rathalos Boots, which has a critical boost level 1 and a 3 slot for a jewel which we have slotted the last level of free element into. Also, look at that defense. Nearly freaking 500! What the fuck? We got so many arch-tempered items on us, we could be a freaking arch-demon with this. And we are fierce monsters! Anyways, moving on to the thunder element, which I also have made another outdated video on, by the way. Just throwing it in there in case you don't have all of the exclusive stuff I'm showing here. So, the weapon again, actually the entire set, including the weapon, looks the freaking same. And is the same. But the bow now is thunder instead of water, so the stats are exactly the same as well, except for, well, +1 attack and -1 elemental attack compared to the water build. But again, here it is. Swiftly this time.
Rathalos Mastery 2, Lunastra Favor 2, +3 Thunder Attack, +3 Free Element, 3 Weakness Exploit, Critical Boost level 2, Wide Range and Tool Specialist level 2, Attack +1, Normal Shots and Spread/Power Shot, Constitution level 1, and Bow Charge plus.
And if I could without sacrificing any of the other stats here, I'd go for a Mind's Eye Jewel, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Unless you wanna sacrifice the Constitution Jewel. which I don't recommend. So for the gear, same as the water build, again, so if you just skip right here, here's a swift overview, but if you want details, you can go to the water build and hear the armor pieces in detail there. I'm actually just trolling you at this point and sending you everywhere in this video just for lols, by the way. The thing that changed, of course, is the bow and the jewels, which now is the Taroth Arrow Thunder, and the elemental attack jewels, which you can go for +4 with, as that maxes out the thunder attack damage all the way up to 470, but you really just get 10 less thunder attack, removing 1 thunder attack and changing that up for an attack jewel. And I haven't really bothered to check what does the most damage. I'm just assuming that 1+ attack does more than 10 thunder attack. Anyways, that's all the elements, and most likely the best builds for them as of right now in terms of damage potential and speedruns. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of it, or that it gave you something to grind for. If it helped out in one way or another, I'd appreciate it very much if you could throw a like to the video. And as for the Azure, Starlord, Rathalos thing, I highly recommend just powering through getting those. They're not really that difficult to get, but finding a server can sometimes be a little bit of a pain in the ass. I think it's too bad they didn't make this a worldwide event quest, really. Now, if you want to check out more builds and videos, I'll link those in the description, or if you want to see me do Let's Plays and other types of videos, I have another channel for that as well. For now, I hope you have a great hunt, and until next time, so long. This time we're gonna cover all elements, so you can fight every monster with ease using one of these builds that I'm about to show you. When did I become Canadian?